So today I want to talk from in Chovos halevovos, in chapter 3 of the 8th treatise we learn in Vayikra, 19:17. You shall surely rebuke your neighbor. And so we learn, Chovos halevovos, by the way, was put together. The author is Rabbeinu bacheya pekuda. And it means the duties of the heart. So we are obligated to warn against evil in 3 ways. 1 could be forcibly with hitting, which is called physical. For example, Pinchas with Zimri and Kasbi. 2 could be verbally protesting, like when Moshe asked the wicked man, "Why do you strike your fellow?" And 3, it could be in one's heart, like it says in tehillim, in 26:5, "I hated the congregation of the evildoers, and with the wicked I shall not sit." That's King David. Okay, so if one can protest forcibly and it'll help, but refrains, it's considered a lacking on his part. If it's difficult for him to protest forcibly, let him protest with words. If he can't protest with words, it's his duty to in his heart. Spending time alone frees us from this commandment, since, as it says in arachin, which is in the Talmud, 16b, it's a wonder if there's someone in this generation who knew how to accept rebuke. So, and others say it's a wonder if someone knows how to give it, the right way to give the rebuke, that it could be accepted. In solitude, we have to be cautious about sharing company in order to avoid, there's many things, but there's many things to avoid, which is why there's many good reasons to be in solitude. 1, excessive talk. 2, speaking of others. 3, speaking of others, their bad deeds, their faults. 3, falsehood and lies. 4, false oaths, useless oaths. 5, arrogance and frivolity, mocking people, putting them down. 6, absence of fear of God in one's heart when mingling with people in conversation, and little chance of being spared their damaging his business affairs or talking about him. 7, flattery and love of acquiring a name for oneself, becoming proud on them, self-important, a show-off. Having to rebuke others. 8, having to rebuke others to fulfill the mitzvah and command them to do good, warn them against evil. And 9, a loss of clarity of thought and intellectual understanding, and strengthening one's yetzer while in their company, camaraderie, and learning from their bad traits. As it says in Mishlei, which is Proverbs by King Solomon, 13:20, a companion of fools shall be corrupted. Most sins can't be completed without 2 people, like illicit relations, corrupt business practice, false oaths, false testimony. The yetzer, the will, especially the will toward self-will rather than godly will, might deceive you by embellishing in your eyes the company of mingling with people, and entice you to yearn for them when you feel lonely in solitude. You should have solitude and separate from when you feel lonely in solitude, let me start that part again. The yetzer might deceive you by embellishing in your eyes the company of mingling with people, and entice you to yearn for them when you feel lonely in solitude. But still, don't be deceived into musing or thinking that studying Torah or the godly, that basically you should have solitude. Don't be deceived into thinking or musing that you should have solitude and separate from the godly sages of studying Torah, the great men. Rather, they're the perfect solitude. That's the complete separation. They're the people to spend time with. Now, talking about taking risks, and also, I wanted to share something about, first, what am I, so duties of the heart, what am I proud of? I'm proud of myself for surviving, in terms of the solitude. So, they say people, places, and things. So we can separate from. So I was thinking there's a person I separated from. There was a man who I was very close to in the past. His name is Michael. Now, I'm not saying I've totally abandoned him. He still needs help sometimes, but I'm saying I've separated from him in certain ways. And then now more recently, Aaron, and then drugs. There was a lot of different things I tried, alcohol, painkillers, cigarettes, and I was able to separate from them. And a lot of these things, it takes the solitude to be able to go in deeper and make new connections in the brain, birth new pathways. It's like a new aspect of the child self, the original self. And even jail, I've been arrested, I've been to jail. Okay, what would have been if not for cell phones? I was thinking about, because I'm saying solitude, like, what if we were not, like, cell phones kind of prevent us from being in solitude. I was thinking about how, like, when somebody doesn't want to be alone with themselves, they could play a game, they could listen to music or a podcast or put on a movie or swipe on the dating app. So how many statues and art masterpieces and houses and farms would have been built, and how many museums and gardens and sanctuaries, and how many castles, and how many collections would have been collected, and books written and books read, and how much design and clothing, and yeah. In terms of taking risks, I was at a CODA meeting and I was thinking, so this would be like when we're saying, like, we don't want to be in codependency, it's really this idea that codependency in relationship is being, in some way dependent on someone else. It's basically not taking direct care of myself, it's caring for myself through others, or meeting my needs through others, and kind of could be using people like a drug even, because, we're trying to control them and use them like an object in order to get as a means to an end. We're not actually showing up in a presence when we're in codependency. It doesn't mean that that interdependency is not healthy. We're not saying everyone should be independent. So taking risks, for example, what that means for me is where new possibilities come, do I want to do the same old neuronal connection or a new connection? So it could be that these are some things like high risk of surrendering control, or low risk, it's, versus managing and fixing. And then also that this idea that there's more, like, pausing for managing and fixing, because it takes 12 seconds for the brain to make a new connection. And also that there's more than like appearances, the internal payoffs when there's good days and bad days, even as a pro. And then vulnerability, exposed and feeling weak, but still strong enough to hear no. It's like a ballet. In other words, like when my sense of self is being born into existence in that moment, and it's through the context of somebody not giving me what I want, I didn't get my way, it could feel weak that I was asking for that, but actually the strength to hear no gives a fitness to my ability. Also, in terms of the surrendering control, releasing control, manipulation, to try to assure that the risk would be successful and the results would be guaranteed, is also a way to say, well, maybe it won't work out, but it's a deeper strength, because I'll be okay. If ABC doesn't work out, there's always DEF or HIJ or LMNOP. So when I earn my own place versus I rely on someone else's perception of me, it's a similar way of looking at this idea that I don't need your eyes to see me for me to feel seen in the way I want to be seen, so I can actually see myself, and who I see is who I accept, and who I see is, has a place. This person who I'm witnessing, this me has a place. And it's not only because that person decided I belong or don't belong, through their eyes and their recognition and noticing. Also recognizing I'm allowed to make mistakes. And this is how to learn loyalty and commitment and perseverance and recovering from loss and failure, because it's saying that I had a misstep on the way. So really the theme today is all about learning to make mistakes. Through taking responsibility. But we won't even call them mistakes here. We'll say learning to take risks, like whether we have to tell someone they're doing something wrong, and taking responsibility for whatever comes out from it. So I want to share from this Instagram account called ashmita.activates, ASHMEETA.activates. And it's basically this idea that Earth is a simulation. I'll just read through what's here. And, I actually think I'm going to need to do this tomorrow. I didn't realize it was so long. I'm sorry. We'll have to do it tomorrow. Okay, bye.